So now we move forward to the stakeholders and actors portion of our report. So we've listed down 4 different stakeholders, and we've presented it in such a way that there's a table with 4 columns for the stakeholders, for the motivation or impact of the moratorium, for their resources or power, and for their possible stand. So for the first stakeholder, we've mentioned that it's the 6 existing Philippine digital banks. So the result of the moratorium, as we've discovered in our study, is they can expand, they can use this opportunity to expand their consumer base and solidify their relationship with their customers because they can improve their service offerings and products without the threat of new competitors. It can also lead to them outperforming the rival banks and to them gaining much more profit because they're not also pressured to lower their fees and charges, which equates, of course, to more financial earnings. For the possible stand, moreover, we stated that they can opt to favor either of the three. So they can opt to want the BSP to continue the moratorium, or it's like they can opt for the BSP to either completely lift or partially lift the moratorium. For the second stakeholder, we've listed it as the applicant digital banks. So if the moratorium is lifted, they can now formally build a consumer base and they accommodate the underserved and unserved segments in the market, especially if they're going to offer tailor-fit services and products for these sectors. So their possible stand in this policy issue statement is, of course, it's either BSP can completely or partially lift the moratorium. So third are the consumers and businesses. So it states that if the moratorium is lifted, they can have lower costs and fees because since there will be more competitors or players in the market, these digital banks will be forced to decrease their fees that they offer to the consumers. So their possible stand here is, of course, either to completely or partially lift the moratorium as well. And the last stakeholder that we're mentioning is the consumer advocates, such as the National Association of Consumers. As we all know, these groups aim for the protection of consumer rights and the promotion of financial inclusion in the country. So therefore, their primary goal is to ensure that Filipino clients are subjected to fair pricing, and at the same time, they also have, and they can also and they can also tap the quality financial services that these digital banking sector can provide to them. It's also important to mention that their resources or power is they can influence the public and the private sector through their advocacy, through lobbying, through public campaigns, and through participation with regulatory bodies like BSP and other government agencies. And of course, you can also gain public support by mobilizing them to further their agenda and their motivations. So their possible stand is either of the three. It's to continue the moratorium, to completely lift the moratorium, and to partially lift the moratorium. Now we move on to the actors that we're stating in this policy issue statement. So first is the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas, of course, as the central monetary authority of the Philippines. They are considered the primary actor because it is the entity that implements, enforces, and can literally modify the moratorium. And of course, We also consider other regulatory and government bodies as the actors for this policy issue. So it's the Department of Finance, the Securities and Exchange Commission, National Privacy Commission, Anti-Money Laundering Council, and the PDIC. So we've stated these specific government bodies because they act in the policymaking and enforcement process, and they can oversee and influence the financial sector. And they shape a regulatory environment that supports innovation while protecting the interests of the stakeholder. So we're not, in the interest of time, we're not gonna fully discuss each government agency, but we've listed it down. So for the SEC, for the Department of Finance, for the National Privacy Commission, for the Anti-Money Laundering Council, and the Philippine Deposit Insurance Corporation. So now we propose these policy alternatives. So for the first one, status quo, BSP continues the existing policy or moratorium by extending the closure of window for establishment of digital banks. For the second alternative, is to completely lift the moratorium. So it will happen by when BSP issues a memorandum that will allow for the receipt, evaluation, and approval of applications to establish digital banks. And for our last and third alternative, it's to partially lift the moratorium. So BSP will modify the existing policy by issuing a memorandum that will allow for the receipt, evaluation, and approval of applications to establish digital banks within 1 year. And BSP will reimpose the closure of window for 4 years to monitor the performance of these banks.
To determine the optimal alternative, we performed 3 key assessments: forecasting, benefit cost analysis, and Prince analysis, which cover the criteria on effectiveness, efficiency, and acceptability. Using simple linear regression, we forecasted the number of depositors that are expected to be onboarded for each alternative. In the interest of time, all assumptions can be referred to our policy paper. These are the numerical results of the forecasting. To better appreciate this, we provided a graphical illustration in the next slide. The results show that the alternative 2 yields the greatest forecasted number of depositors at an annual average of 1.2 million depositors for the forecasted period. As such, this is the most effective alternative based on this analysis. In terms of efficiency criteria, we performed benefit cost analysis. Based on the stakeholder analysis, we identified that the following are the persons or entities withstanding on this analysis whose benefits and costs significantly matter. In the interest of time, all assumptions can be referred again in our policy paper. The benefits that carried for the establishment of a digital bank include lower transaction fees, improved access to financial services, and improved customer experience. While there are costs that are anticipated for the technology, increased risk in cybersecurity, fraud and crime, supervision, and compliance. Based on our quantification, Alternative 2 has the biggest net present value of the net benefit amounting to 43.9 billion. This shows that the improvement in the access to financial services through digital banking is significantly valuable. Under this assessment, Alternative 2 is the most beneficial among the alternatives.
Thank you, JM, for discussing the results of our forecasting and quantitative cost benefit analysis. So now we move forward to the last method, which is the Prince method for the applicability measure of our 3 policy alternatives. So this method allowed for the systemic evaluation of the potential support or opposition from each of our key stakeholders. So it aims to determine the most viable and beneficial policy approach for enhancing the Philippines' level of financial inclusion, particularly by fostering a more competitive digital banking environment. So now we have the 3 specific calculations for each policy alternative. So we have this, the first alternative, the second alternative, and the third alternative. So we've summarized it, and put it into a single table. So for the first column, we've listed down all our stakeholders and actors, and for the second to fourth columns, we've listed down the print scores of the three alternatives respectively. Therefore, we found out that alternative 1 or the status quo has a probability of support or POS of 85%. Alternative 2 has a POS of 77%, while alternative 3 has a POS of 86%. So this policy method analysis, the Sprint's method analysis revealed that alternative 3 is the most supported and accepted policy option with the highest probability of support among the three alternatives. So it reveals as well that this alternative balances the need for an increased competition and innovation in the digital banking sector, while it also ensures that there is an effective regulatory oversight employed by BSP and the other concerned regulatory government bodies. So we now have the table on the optimal policy alternative. So based on the key assessments of the three policy alternatives, alternative 2 is the most effective option and beneficial, while alternative 3 is the most acceptable option. While the results of the three assessments are equally considered, but for me and for Jim, we deem that the effectiveness and efficiency measure of the policy alternative is most important. So therefore, we consider alternative number 2 to be the optimal policy measure to address the identified root cause of the policy problem. So it's the complete lifting of the moratorium.
Now we present the implementation plan of the optimal policy alternative. The first two critical actions pertain to the issuance of BSP memorandum, while the other actions pertain to the evaluation and approval of the license applications, the responsible unit, and the time frame. This information can be referred to the BSP's Citizens Charter. While the cost of regulation is the main budgetary concern, it is expected to be charged against the BSP funds. So to ensure that the policy achieves the intended goal and objectives, we identified SMART indicators which are presented earlier. Data will be sourced from the regular surveys conducted by the BSP, including the reports from the banks. BSP has a dedicated office to collect and analyze the data. Expected outputs on this include financial inclusion dashboard, which is currently published in the BSP website, and the National Strategy for Financial Inclusion Annual Report. The BSP and the Financial Inclusion Steering Committee are expected to be the primary users of these outputs. In conclusion, to address the limited access to a broader financial banking services caused by the moratorium, the issuance of a BSP memorandum to completely lift the moratorium on the establishment of the digital banks is highly sought in this policy paper. Thank you.